And we're live.
Welcome to Drink Spin Run. I'm Don Stroud. With me, as always, I can't get rid of him. Wait, can't get rid of me. It's Adam Miskevich.
Howdy, Don. How you doing, sir?
Great. Thanks for asking.
I did ask.
No, I said great. Thanks for asking.
I know. It was great,
How
wasn't
are
it?
you?
I'm doing pretty well. It's been such a short time since I've seen you. It's really weird, you know. I mean, we just had that great episode last Monday, and now we're doing this other one, and we had a really great RuneQuest stream on Wednesday. So it's been really cool. All the stuff we've been doing with the channel over here, with with the show and with streaming stuff. It's almost like we know what we're doing, which obviously not true, folks. Obviously not true. And with us, not as always, but as well. Okay, with us tonight we have two special guests. We're gonna start with the new guy first. We'll start with from the Games with Others blog. Almost forgot the name of your blog, Pearce. We have Mr. and of Monster Parts fame. You hear me talking about Monster Parts all the time, guys. We have Mr. Pearce Shea. Pearce, how you doing, sir?
I'm good. How are you?
Still fantastic. Still doing great. Also with us from the Deep South, from the sweltering crotch of the country that is Louisiana, we have Mr. Clint Krause. I just have to talk shit about Louisiana. I don't know why, but
it's valid. Everything you say is valid.
Don't give me that kind of license. That is not true. No. So it's good to have you back, sir. Thank you very much for joining us once again. As always, it's a pleasure.
Good to be here.
Awesome.
Good to meet you also, Pearce. I don't think we've met face to face before.
No, I don't think we have.
I definitely know you from online, though. Yeah.
Yeah, this is my first time actually like talking to you as well, Pearce. Other than like in non-real time messages. So it's great to meet you, man.
Likewise.
So let's go ahead. Let's go around the table. Let's get it started. I'm gonna ask Clint, what are you drinking, man?
Oh man, you gave me shit about this last time. I'm drinking pure leaf tea. I don't even really drink anymore, man.
Wait, is it sweet?
We should probably. Can we just end the show there and you kick me off?
No. Did we make fun of someone last week for this too?
Yes.
Yeah, it was Daniel Bishop, wasn't it? No, it wasn't Daniel.
No, he was drinking.
Daniel
beer.
was drinking. Shit.
It was Kyle Chenier.
Yeah, the other guy who wasn't Daniel Bishop who was on the show. Yeah, him.
Was it Kyle? Was it Kyle Chenier?
Yeah, that was his actual name, not what I tried to call him. Yeah.
Well, no one knows about that because we didn't release that yet. So
people who watched know, and
people who watch. Do people watch on Twitch? Is Twitch a real thing, Adam?
We got a few people who watch on Twitch.
Viewers.
We don't have as many as we used to have when Google Hangouts on air was a thing, but we've got some. So, howdy, folks at home. Well, I'm sorry you're disappointing me again.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I thought about that even earlier today when I had opportunities to maybe acquire. But then I thought, no, he's not going to constrain me with the format of the show. No.
Oh, just only in the first half, man. The second half is the free form. I made a special trip. I'm just going to say, but we don't. We're not talking to me yet.
Now I feel extra bad.
You really should. You're a foul human being. Don Stroud, what are you drinking?
Hey, I am drinking. I have to open it. Oh. You like that?
I do. It was sexy.
I have Zombie Dust, which is, from Three Floyds.
Yeah.
The IPA.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that I cracked it open and the whole room is just like humming with hops right now. You guys should be here.
Should we?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I wish we were all actually hanging out at a real table.
That would be great. Then Dice would have to come out. We wouldn't have
a show.
I
have to put pants on.
I'm wearing pajama pants, so.
That's close enough.
Yeah. Pearce, what are you drinking tonight?
I am having Victory Hop Ranch Imperial IPA.
Where's the Victory from?
Downingtown, PA.
Oh, okay. Where are you at now that I think about it? Like, I don't actually know where you are.
I am in Camp Hill, Pennsylvania. So, like, a couple hours from D.C., couple hours from Philly.
Gotcha. My U.S. Geography has been drastically improved by my current job because I send actors to different cities from certain cities, like all over the country. So I have to know where people are to know where to send people from to get there, which has been really cool. And I just have to pretend that everywhere is close to everywhere else. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It is in a way. Your special trip.
Oh yeah,
for your beer, Adam.
Yeah.
What are you drinking?
I am drinking Griffin Claw, which is not from Grand Rapids. I totally would have thought it was from Grand Rapids before I got it.
No, it's not.
It's in Birmingham, Michigan.
Yeah.
Griffin Claw's Grand Trunk Bohemian Pilsner. That's pretty good. It's a little hoppier than I was hoping for. But
yeah, being a Pilsner.
Yeah, you really wouldn't expect Pilsners to have any hoppiness to it, but this has some. I think I read that it had some as well, and I just didn't believe it or something. I don't know. I've been really digging the cans that a lot of folks have been using lately,
Yeah.
Brewery Vivant obviously has their really nice cans. A bunch of local places are doing cans because it keeps the beer fresher, I like that. I'm down.
Yeah, and it's lighter to ship, and I think, what was it? Cans are a smaller footprint, more expensive to start. I researched all this stuff. I could go on and on about cans, but instead, let's just skip to the next thing we talk about, which is music. I'm going to go... I asked Pearce last time. I'm going to keep on going. I'm moving the show along, guys.
You do it. Yeah, this is great. It's nice to have someone else on this show with me.
Pearce, are you spinning anything interesting? I'm going to kick you off my show.
He says to the guy who has the kick people off button. Yeah. I would never kick you off, Don.
Good, thank you.
I've been listening to Danny Brown's Atrocity exhibition. It's like a hip hop album, came out a couple months ago, I think. It's pretty good. Kind of fringe hip hop. Good stuff.
I'm going to check that out. I'm not familiar with it.
Did you say British hip hop?
No, like fringe.
Fringe.
I think it is.
Fringe.
I don't think he's British, but I think the label is.
Okay.
Great.
So you're still right.
Yeah.
At least in part.
I mean, I think British would be fringe hip hop, right?
I mean,
trust me.
I'm sure they have some mainstream, like their own mainstream stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
It's all about context, Don. I mean,
it is about context.
Are you talking about whether it's fringe to them or whether it's? This is a dumb conversation, Don. And you,
Clint, what are you? What are you spitting? Because I'm so tired of whatever we're talking about. Go on.
I think recently I've been into Epica a lot, the symphonic power metal band, and the Holographic Principle is the album that I've been listening to a lot lately. Aside from that, I'm also really into this band. I think it's pronounced Zaum or Zalm. Zaum. They're like a doom metal, kind of, I don't know, doomy, but kind of droney as well. Really good stuff. Really good gamey material. I actually heard about them from Victor Garrison.
Oh God, that guy! He's the best.
Yeah.
His love that guy. His musical taste is like the shit.
Yeah. I've gotten into a lot of good stuff from him. So anyway, they have 2 albums and both of them are equally good. I think I've been listening to those.
Nice. I'm glad you said it was. Did you say something about you're getting a lot of game stuff from it? Because I was sitting here before 3rd season started. I'm like, I gotta be more of a question person. I'm like, I need to start asking, or Adam needs to start. We need to start asking. And how does that music selection inspire your game or influence your game? But you brought it to me, and you reminded me that I had this thought once and then forgot it. So, thank you, Clint. I'm glad you're back on the show.
Remind us how to do our job. It's great.
I do what I can.
All right, good.
We appreciate it. So,
Adam, you're just not playing this game. So, what are you spinning?
So Don, a little while ago, or by a little while ago, I mean quite a while ago. I think it was when we were working on the 2nd season. I put together this playlist for myself of a bunch of stuff you mentioned, and you're like, "You're not gonna like it, Adam." And so I was like, "Fuck you, Don. I'm gonna listen to it." And I use it as I use it as gaming music, and I fucking love it for that. But you're like, Adam, you're not gonna like Barn Owl, but I really like Barn Owl.
Barn Owl's dope, man.
But that got me into like I'd already kind of been into Grails a little bit, so I was listening to Grails quite a bit. So that's been like my gaming music has been Barn Owl and Grails like all the time, and it's been really dark and with a little bit of Borin and their Club of Gore. So like. And by gaming here, I actually mean video gaming because my my gaming right now, all my role playing is online, you know. So that's this. I mean, our gorgeous viewers can see what gorgeous listeners, whatever, they can see the stuff on our YouTube channel and on our Twitch stream, because I've been streaming my home game via that for the last couple of weeks, which is pretty sweet. But there was another thing that I wanted to mention that I'm not. Oh shit! Yeah. Somehow I've gone my entire fucking life, without discovering the Sister Rosetta Tharpe.
The what? Say it again.
Sister Rosetta Tharpe.
Like the guitar player, right?
Yeah, she's a badass lady, man.
Yeah.
She is like full of like crazy energy and power, and she's dirty and sassy. She's fucking amazing. But if you look like her blues singing and guitar playing career, like I'm sure I haven't looked her up on Wikipedia, so I'm sure like there's a bunch of shit I'm missing. But like I found on YouTube like performances of hers that go back to like 1941, and then there's a bunch of like television performances you can find, like from nobody has any idea what these fucking TV shows were, I think, because they're just so damn old. But here's this older black lady with a guitar just kicking ass and awesome. Howling and having a great time, and I just that has been in heavy rotation in my life, so that's been good. Also, I didn't mention this last episode, and I really needed to. We've been kind of occasionally mentioning things that we got into in the interim, and by got into, I mean like had like heavy rotation in between seasons. Prince Buster died back in September. And if you don't know who Prince Buster is, it's because you're not a first wave ska fan. But Prince Buster was basically, he's kind of the guy who invented ska. Like he heard R&B broadcast over the air from Florida, and he started playing, started recording it and then playing it on the on a radio station in Jamaica, and then the locals started playing their version of it, and that became ska, and he started putting that on the radio, and then he started recording ska. And so in fact, there's a very popular comic book character whose name comes from a Prince Buster song, and that's Judge Dredd. So
okay,
yeah, but he's an incredibly influential guy. He started a whole genre by himself, and he's really phenomenal. So if you ever want to hear some weird old ska stuff, check out Prince Buster. He also, guys know I'm a big Toots and the Maytals fan. He also did a great track with Toots and the Maytals called Ska War that is like kind of my gotta get shit done song lately. But anyway, that's me. Don Stroud, we did Pearce already, right? Pearce, we got you like first thing, right? Yeah, because you're the Danny Brown. Yeah. I had to remind myself, like, I feel like we skipped Pearce, but so I'm gonna ask.
It's because I took initiative and I seized the initiative.
Never happens. You never win initiative.
Well, I'm trying to keep us different. Yeah, I'm trying to keep us like on task, because our last episode, Zencastr crashed on us because it was it crashed on most of us, didn't it, Adam? You were like kicked out. And mine was like, you're full of memory because you guys bullshitted for too long, and now I'm bullshitting again, and I just stay on task. Damn it, Adam.
You brought it up, man. I didn't have anything to do with this. So Don Stroud, what are you listening to?
You mentioned Borin Ender Club of Gore. I was rocking some of that recently, along with Xyloris White. I don't know if you guys know about Xyloris White. It's a Greek guy, and Jim White from the Dirty Three. Or is it just Dirty Three?
I was going to say it sounds like a drug from Star Trek.
No, so it's this crazy, like, kind of... do you want me to get technical? It's like jazz, post-rock, and Greek music, because George, or it's, I don't know how you say George in Greek. How do you say that, Adam?
How do you say what?
You're Polish. How do you say George in Greek?
Jörg, right? Isn't it something like that?
Yeah. So he is like I don't even know what the instrument is. It's fat, got lots of strings. Anyway, they just rock out. So Jim White's doing these like rock, crazy jazz beats, and Xyloris is just strumming on his weird little thing. It's crazy, dudes. It'll blow your minds.
Okay, we're gonna check it out. Awesome. I really want to do that. I'm gonna try throwing together like a mix podcast of the shit we talk about, for each one of these part 1 episodes, so that people at home can find out what the fuck we're talking about without having to do any work themselves. I don't know if
it's legal, but it sounds fun.
It's totally legal, and I figured out how to do it legally. Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
Cool.
No, we'll be good. I won't ruin anything. Hey, we're on the next part. We're on Reed.
We're going along, cooking.
So I'm going to ask you this time. I'm going to start with you, Don, and we're going to go. Yeah, we'll start with you, Don.
Ask me because
yes.
It's only been a week, so I'm still reading the Hastur cycle.
Mm-hmm. How's that?
The compilation of stories. Yeah, it was really neat. There was somebody wrote in the maybe 70s continuation or excuse me, such of Stranger in Darkness, H.P. Lovecraft.
Yeah.
So it's like a great-granddaughter.
You mean Haunter in the Darkness?
No, Stranger.
Oh.
No, Whisperer.
Whisperer in the Darkness.
Sorry. Yeah, Whisperer. I was mixing
one with Amigo.
Yeah.
Different stories completely. Got it. Okay.
So the only reason Stranger in Darkness, or Whisperer, I keep on saying that. It's Stranger on the Doorstep.
Yes.
Whisper in the Darkness was even in there is like...
It's a rainbow in the dark. It's good.
Like a rainbow! You are derailing me.
Just keep moving. Come on. You got a show here. Come on.
Yeah, I'm the one doing the show. And you're derailing my train.
Shh. Get to work.
Oh, there's one line that mentions the cult of the King in Yellow fighting the Migo, and that's the only reason it's in this fucking Hastur. I just swore, damn it.
We swear
downhill fast.
Damn it.
Somebody save us, Pearce.
I didn't want to be on the show if there was going to be swearing.
That's probably what you said. You wanted the purple M&Ms and no swearing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You're the only guest to ever have a writer, Pearce. It was weird. Yeah. We don't know what to do with that.
Yeah. Reading?
Tell us what you're reading.
So, I'm reading a manga called Happiness by Shuzo Oshibi. There's like 3 volumes translated now, commercially available. There's like another volume illegally available, and it's real good. It's about, I guess, vampires. I mean, it is literally about vampires. But it's like this guy does like this thing about like it's kind of like a takedown of like otaku culture and like ineffectual male culture. It's cool. It's like and his like art style is like really, it's like touches of like Junji Ito and do like Uzumaki and Tomie. I don't know if you know those. And then this other, like, he's just totally changed his style from the last time he's done stuff, and it's like a lot of like more hatching, and it's super cool. I've bought it like all 3 volumes, like, I don't know, 3 weeks ago, and I've read it, I don't know, 10 times at this point.
Wow.
Sweet. I literally did not understand anything you said, but
it's a good thing we're going to ask you to tell us what those things are. Like, dope. We're going to, like, when we get into the show notes, like, we got a better way to get show notes and everything now, man. We're going to have you actually tell me what that shit is, and then, everybody will be able to find out about it. Clint, what are you reading, man?
I'm reading Manifest Destiny lately, which is this great graphic novel series or comic series that's about Lewis and Clark, the Lewis and Clark expedition, except that when, they began their exploration of, these wild lands, there's all kinds of weird fantasy shit going on. And It's really good. I'm not through it yet. I'm still in the first. I just finished the first volume of it, and it's very, very good. Beautiful art, good story. I like it. And Lewis and Clark are like probably my favorite American historical figures. I think they're interesting.
Very cool, actually. Yeah, I'm a big fan of theirs as well. That's some of the neatest parts of American history. You know, like when there was still shit to discover.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
pretty great.
Yeah. So anyway, I recommend that Manifest Destiny, and I'm always right now for the last long while. I'm always also kind of reading Moby Dick a little bit in the background.
Cool.
Because I'm working on a lot of nautical stuff or stuff I'm writing.
You don't say. You don't say you're working on nautical stuff.
Yeah.
So there's always a little bit of Moby Dick in the background.
Very cool.
I read that once a year.
It's a good practice, I think.
It's very good.
I've never read it.
They do a reading somewhere in New England, like straight through. Like they start at somewhere sometime in the morning, and then they just keep reading it. Yeah.
That sounds amazing. That would be so cool.
I don't know where it is. I don't even know if they still do it, but they used to do it for I think decades.
Wow. So cool.
Neat. All right, so Don, who's all like, "Hey, I'm really good at my job."
I was texting my wife. Hey, Adam, what are you reading?
How's she doing?
She's doing all right. She's going to bed.
I'm reading texts from your wife.
I'm reading texts from. I'm reading texts from my wife.
No, I'm reading them too. She's texting me different stuff.
Probably wants me to be quiet.
Yeah, she probably does. It's a good thing I'm not in your basement because she would not get any sleep.
She would be killing you.
Yeah.
But tell us what
I
you're
kind of
reading.
get that feeling that that's about to happen every time I see her. Like she's gonna murder me right now.
Well, Russians and Polish people.
Yep. And just move into my space, take my stuff. Anyway, it's only been a week since the last episode, so I'm still reading The Lies of Locke Lamora. However, there has been a significant change. Once I hit about 65, because I'm reading it on the Kindle. Right, Kindle app. So I don't know what page I'm on. I know on what percentage of the way through the book I am. When I hit 65%, suddenly the book got really good. It's very much a bummer that it took to 65% of the way through the book to get really good. But you know me, I'm a big fan of bad things happening to people. So when all the bad things start happening, I started to really like it. And now it's becoming a revenge story. And there are few better stories than revenge stories, right? And I'm really happy with the direction that it took. However, I really wish it would have gotten there faster. I don't know if either of you gents have read The Lies of Locke Lamora. What'd you think?
I think you're about right. I mean, I like some of the earlier stuff where it's like establishing the world building is interesting, like that sort of like Venice.
Yeah.
Kind of.
So a lot of my opinion revolves around the fact that it's unnecessarily fantasy. Like it didn't need to be fantasy.
Sure, that's true. Yeah.
You could have just put it in fucking Venice, and I would have been happier because then you wouldn't have to explain a bunch of shit that you explain. You could have just done it differently. And we all would have had touch points for it, and you would have saved a lot of time. We could have moved forward further, faster.
Yeah, it's much longer than it needs to be.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second book, I don't think was any good at all. So
I am not planning on reading the second book because it took too long for the first one to get interesting. So I will finish the first one, but I'm not excited about it.
It doesn't happen with the second one, so.
Oh, we don't. Oh. Well, I mean, it's a continuation of the same story. It seems like it would be kind of I don't know how you could do it after everybody's dead.
Well, yeah, you
There's
moved
like
to some
2 characters who survived. Thanks. I don't care. Anyway, that's where we're
do it like one of the greatest books ever written, Galapagos, by Vonnegut.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
You ever read it?
No.
It's told by a ghost.
Okay, that's cool. Ghosts can tell stories.
Read it.
I want to read it. It's like literally a ghost story, right?
Yeah. Told by thousands, tens of thousands of years after he died, I guess. I don't know.
Wow.
It's crazy.
That's a long time that ghost is dead.
Yeah. Well, the human race evolved in that time.
Oh.
I don't want to ruin it. It's great. Read it.
I want you to do your book report on Galapagos. Okay, that's your next book report. So, Pearce, you're last chatting with me here, so you're the victim of my next question. Pearce, Shea, what are you running?
So I've been testing. I've been working on a I don't know how to describe it. Kind of like cyberpunk, kind of adventure set in an apartment building. So kind of like high rise, but less like the movie and more like the book, and then or more maybe also like what's that Cronenberg movie?
Yeah,
on the island in the apartment, that building that's in the island.
The Brood.
Brood. I
think it was Brood. Yeah, the Brood.
Yeah. No, the Brood is the one with Oliver Reed. Let me wait. I can't. I don't know where.
So that doesn't sound very cyberpunk. I'm like, oh.
No, it's like and then I guess kind of sort of like a little bit like Serial Experiment Lane, if you know any 90s anime.
Ooh, that's actually the only anime I know anything about right there.
Yeah, I felt like that was a safe touchstone.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I can get down with that. That's good stuff.
But yeah, no, it's
So are you writing that now, or are you running that?
Shivers, I think, is the Cronenberg movie. So I'm writing it and sort of writing parts of it, and testing it out. I tend to get deep into an idea, and so I have to stop and run it every once in a while, like every week or two, before I can keep going with it. Otherwise, it's just a frustrating waste of time. So, so that's what I've been running and writing.
Awesome. Sweet. I'm gonna keep going that way. Don Stroud, what are you running?
Well, we just recorded last week. Yeah. So you can imagine that I've run nothing since then.
It's not my fault you don't take the opportunities you're given.
Oh, no, it's my anniversary weekend.
Oh,
but you know what I did do? I actually spent this is unheard of, between the 2 days, maybe 5 or 6 hours to write on this project that I've been talking about for a long time. And I actually, I was like, you ever get one of those bursts where you're just like, bam, 10 more pages done.
Yeah.
I was on fire. It was great. Right. I don't usually get to do that.
That's the cleric thing you're working on, right?
Yeah.
So it's basically like roll your own religion, right? That kind of thing?
Yeah, you make it sound so juvenile.
No, that's awesome. What are you talking about? Yeah. It's
sounds really cool, man.
It's kind of like a Mad Lib religion creation system that, you start off one place, it's specifically for DCC, right? So you start off as like a nobody, and then you end up with, this is how you fit into the cosmos. Yeah.
All these rites and...
Oh, it's really cool.
Yeah.
I think it's really exciting. I really want to see it.
Yeah, you haven't seen it yet.
No.
Is this like a full-on supplement sort of thing, or is it...
I mean, it could be. Yeah. I mean, I started out with a couple ideas. I was back in my notes, and apparently I started this in August of 15. I was like, holy cow.
Oh, come on. That's not that long. We've all had ideas that we've been sitting on forever.
But I thought I'd just been working on it for a year. I guess that's only...
That's not much more than a year.
Months.
Yeah.
It felt, because it was it was infantile. I'm like, oh, wow, here are some notes I scratched down in Drive at my old job about something I was thinking about. I don't know. It was neat for me. Where are we?
Clint.
What are you running?
Right now, I'm pretty much running Lamentations of the Flame Princess. Still, that's mostly what I've been running for the last year or so. Yeah. And I'm also running mostly stuff that I'm writing at the moment. So Driftwood Verses. I just kind of finished up a big campaign in Driftwood Verses. And then now I'm doing one based on Undertow, which is the first supplement that I'm doing for Driftwood Verses.
Jeez,
which is well, yeah, I've been working on that stuff for a long time, so a lot of it was already kind of done. But anyway, so except all this stuff I found since I started running it, I'm like, oh God, I need to, get this in order. There's a lot of nonsense in there. So, but it's, running it is a good way to find that out pretty quick. So I've been running that, and so far that's going well. And aside from that, I got the new-ish Savage Worlds Deadlands books for Christmas, like the player guide and the GM's guide. So I've been reading through that, and I ran one game. I'd like to do a campaign of it. I don't really know if I'm going to have time, but I've thought about that quite a bit. I've been reading the Deadlands books. It's fun. I like that sort of stuff.
I've always been intrigued, but I have never.
And I'm a big Savage Worlds fan in general too.
Oh, yeah.
I also got the Savage Worlds Rifts stuff, which is pretty neat. And I like the idea of maybe eventually doing a Rift-C sort of cross-dimensional thing where there's, the Deadlands stuff mixed with Rift stuff, mixed with, whatever else. I haven't done a thing like that in a long time, so that'd be fun. But I don't know.
I've always felt like the promise of Savage Worlds was huge. I wanted a really kind of universal system that was flavorful and used funky dice, and but I want and seemed simple, but then the character creation system just kind of got away from me, and that's where I lost interest. It got too complicated. I mean, it never got to GURPS or hero level complexity, but it got to be more than I wanted to deal with. So I've never spent any much time on Savage Worlds after I discovered that fact.
It's like a super 90s RPG.
Is it?
Character
it is.
Wise. Yeah.
See, there's some of those super 90s RPGs I could totally get down with. I loved Earth Dawn, and that was super fiddly when it came to character creation. But that was the thing. That's what I liked about Savage Worlds, was that it was flavorful, just like the Earth Dawn rules are flavorful. They feel like they do what they do really well. It's just getting from nothing to a character that you can do something with just seems like it takes way too much work for me, for my perspective. And I wish it didn't. Yeah. I wish someone would do something like a Savage Worlds Light or something.
I think that's a totally fair criticism of it. I also think it's not. I don't really think of Savage Worlds as being a generic system per se. It's basically a pulp system. It does whatever genre it may be. It's like a pulpy version of that,
right?
Which is fine. Yeah.
Good.
Cool.
Awesome.
Have we heard from you yet, Adam?
No, kind of, but not really. I have run something since last week. And that is the RuneQuest Elder Wilds game that I'm streaming for our actual play this season. This season I do have a pretty good plan for doing actual plays. This is the first one. I am going to start a second one soon. I want to do 3 actual plays other than the RuneQuest one this year. And so I'm going to be tapping some of our gorgeous listeners for this, some friends, stuff like that. I want to do a DCC game because we've never streamed either of us running a DCC game, Don. Okay. I think that would be fun. I want to do a 5th edition game because I have some ideas on how to do 5th edition that I think would be a lot of fun. I want to give them a shot. And there's another one that I want to do Lamentations because I started working on that thanks to freaking Harley Stroh daring me to do it. Gorgeous listeners will remember that last season, Harley Stroh, when he was on, issued me a challenge that it was when the Humble Bundle was running, or sorry, the Bundle of Holding was running the Lamentation stuff, and they're like, I said, oh, it's really exciting. If Lamentations does really well, how cool is that? And Harley's like, well, what are you gonna do if they do this thing? And I said, well, I don't know. He's like, well, you should release something for Lamentations. I'm like, okay. So now I'm at the point where I can play test that shit, and it's exciting.
Awesome.
It's using some of the stuff I wrote on my blog like a while ago, the In the Shadow of the Black Giant setting, which is kind of like it's kind of like that Lamentations era stuff, but set very specifically in Bavaria. So, it's that like late 1500s, early 1600s. It's Lamentations meets the German Idyll, but it's a sandbox toolkit. So, this is not me letting too much out of the bag, but the idea is every choice you make about your characters has a real world impact. So if you're playing a wizard, right, you're like, I'm going to be a magic user. Great. Your choice to make your character be a magic user means that in the world somewhere, in the confines of the sandbox, there is either a rival wizard or a witch hunter. and the GM gets to
Oh,
decide
cool.
what it is. But you get to place it on the map, so you get to decide where it goes. If you're playing a fighter, that means that there's a looming threat of war, because otherwise, why would soldiers be about? So, then you and the GM sort out what that means. So that's the idea is to go. This is kind of inspired by Beyond the Wall. I wanted to go from nothing to like a thematic sandbox in 20 minutes.
That's awesome.
So that's my plan there.
Muskevich, every once in a while you drop some nuggets.
I dropped some nuggets earlier, and then sorry. Wait.
Wow.
Oh, we got a shit joke. That's like the first time we ever got a shit joke on the show. Wow. That's bad. It took us 3
actually being
seasons.
serious.
Yeah.
I was actually being serious.
You've been doing it wrong this far. So, how are you adding, or is it just the basic?
I'm sorry. Am I adding what?
Classes?
No.
Is this like a? So it's just the Lamentations.
Mm-hmm. Just straight up Lamentations. Yeah, that's it. By saying witch hunter, I don't mean like a character class witch hunter. I mean
no. I meant more like, so if you've got 4 people or 5 people at the table, you could theoretically have
2 looming threats of war.
Various things triggered. Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
That's interesting.
But also, I was also thinking about, instead of there being like just like granular, it could be like priority. So if there's 2 fighters, maybe the first one puts the first kind of thing on the map, and the second one puts the next kind of the next thing. But it's always priority, so we always start at the top of the list and we go down. So I mean, if you have a party that's all fighters, you got 6 fighters. Well, eventually we've just exhausted that list. So that's my thought.
That's really cool.
That's cool. Yeah.
Thanks.
That's awesome.
Blame Harley Stroh. It's his fault.
Do you know why no one knows what we're talking about? Because that episode never made it out.
Oh, did it? Oh, shit.
No.
How did that happen? Do we need files?
I don't know.
Oh,
I think I need files, yeah.
Well, we'll figure it out. Okay.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
That was a really drunk episode, too. That's a bummer. Oh.
Yeah, that was Satanic Panic, right?
No. Wait.
Wasn't? Yes, it was. It was really drunk for you. Yeah.
Oh, fuck. Was that one?
I think it was the one after Gen Con or before Gen Con. I don't know.
Oh, shit.
It was after.
We were really drunk.
Brendan LaSalle was before Gen Con, and we don't have that one out either. That was Funhouse Dungeons.
Oh, yeah.
Friendly listeners who will hear about these teases before the actual episode. Maybe.
So anyway, speaking of our gorgeous listeners, they're going to join us in just a little bit or in a week's time for the second half of this episode, where we're going to have these gorgeous guests on. Wait, is that what we call them? What do we all call our guests?
Special guests. We call them special. That's what we've always called them.
Yeah, we're going to join these guys. They're going to join us, and we're going to talk about. And this is something like when Pearce was like, "Yeah, I can do that." I was like, "Sweet, I'm going to put him with Clint, and here's what we're going to talk about." And my thought was to have these guys together as the designers of their respective stuff. We're going to talk about. I forgot how this list runs. Like popular myth and like folklore, like dark folklore and urban legend, and how the damage that can do, like in a good way, on our gaming. So here's why this is a great idea, right? I mean, we just talked about Driftwood Versus. Clint also has has this game right here. Right, that one, the Don't Walk in the Winter in Winterwood. I always want to put a "the" in it, which is a game about telling scary campfire stories. Pearce has Monster Parts, which is terrifyingly amazing, and these are the right guys. These are the guys I want to talk to about this shit, right?
Totally.
Yeah. So, you gorgeous listeners, join us in a week's time when we have that conversation. You beautiful viewers at home, give us 5 minutes.
Wait, do you want me to read the emails now?
Oh, shit, yeah, do an email. Yeah. We got emails?
Yeah.
Awesome.
There are none. Thanks, people.
Did we get emails? Yeah, there are none. You're a jerk.
I'm being passive-aggressive.
Yeah. Make Don stop being a passive-aggressive Midwesterner. Send him emails. Send them to us at dsr@kickassistan.net. And I'll make Don read them. So do it, and it'll happen.
All right.
What should be in the emails?
Anything.
Thinly veiled threats, not instructions on how to build a time machine.
I have some spicy pictures.
That's good.
Those will go all over the internet. So yeah, maybe you don't want to send them to
well, they're
us.
already there. Okay.
Why did you make him not do that, Don? That was bad. We could have sexy, Pearce pictures now, and you said you made it not happen. I'm not. Oh. All right, you guys. I'm gonna break this show. Yeah, we're gonna be done right here.
All right.
Yeah. Good night, folks. We'll see you next time.
Cranking it out. Yeah.
Here's some sound. And we're live. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again for joining us on Drinksman Run, the tabletop RPG talk show podcast. I'm one of your hosts. Jeez, I can't talk. Adam Miscavige. With me, as always, is my lovely co-host, Mr. Don Stroud. Don, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing fabulous.
Should we tell everybody how I dropped all of my stuff because I'm a little tipsy already?
Yes.
Okay, good. We just did that. All right. Tonight, we have two fantastic guests. That's what it is. The word is fantastic. That's the word I put with guests. Two fantastic guests. We were debating this at the end of last episode.
Two special guys.
No! No! You're not going to be jerks. We're going to be nice to these guys. They are fantastic. I'm really glad they're here. Tonight, we're talking about popular myths, folklore, like the dark kind of folklore, and urban legends with our special guests. The first is, I screwed it up and said special guest. Our fantastic guest. The first, you know him from Games with Others and the Monster Parts game. We have Mr. Pearce Shea. Pearce, how you doing tonight, sir?
I'm great.
So glad to have you back, Gish.
Yeah.
After that brief, 5-minute break we took. And also from, you know him from such stuff as the Driftwood Versus, Vacant Ritual Assembly, and Don't Walk in Winter Wood, said with the correct lack of articles this time, Mr. Clint Krause. Clint, how you doing, sir?
Pretty good, man.
Great.
Cannot complain.
Great to have you guys back. I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to jump into it. Because I have a very specific experience, and I was starting to tell Pearce a little bit about this as we were gathering this group. Last year at GaryCon, I ran Monster Parts for the first time, and I had a blast doing it. And as I ran the Into the Woods. It's into the wood, right? Not plural. So it's not like
in the woods.
In the woods, right? So it's not
Into the Woods is a musical.
That's why I keep saying it wrong.
That's why it's called In the Woods.
This is a good reason to be able to sort out our prepositions there. That's good. But so I ran that at GaryCon last year, and I had a blast running it. The people who were playing it really enjoyed playing it, as far as I could tell, unless they're lying to me. But it's people I trust, so I don't think so. One of the things that struck me about it was the nature of the secrets in that game. And the secrets are often villainous, but not necessarily. They're like mythic beings that kind of dominate the game's landscape. And by landscape I don't mean like physical landscape. I mean more like psychological landscape. They're the points on which the whole game hinges, and they have a very nightmarish feel to them, which I think is of course intentional, but they seem really familiar to me. I mean, not in a way where I could identify them, like I could say, oh, this is this thing, but they seemed like similar enough to things I might already be thinking about that it was terrifying. Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay. So, how much of that, Pearce, comes from you? How much of it comes from, or can you attribute to, hearing scary ass stories about shit that terrified you as a kid? And if it's none, that's fine. It felt to me to have that sort of campfire nightmare quality to it. Of course I could just be projecting. What can you tell us about that?
Well, I mean, yes, I guess that is intentional.
Okay.
That it is a campfire kind of thing. But it's I don't know. As a kid, I was really into frightening stories, so some of this comes from that, and I think that there is a weird preponderance of frightening shit that was available. When I don't know how old you guys are, around 35, I think, and so there was a weird preponderance of that kind of stuff. Not just the scary stories to tell in the dark. I think that was what it's called. Yeah. Those really good pencil illustrations.
Yeah. Charles Schultz, right?
But there were also a bunch of like stuff that you can find now because it's being reprinted because publishers realize like we're not having children, but like stuff where it's just like I remember seeing it recently in the bookstore and thinking like this is so fucking weird to show to a child.
Yeah.
Like I can't remember this book at all right now. I should have written it down, but there's like a story in the book about a kid that encounters men on its way home, with increasingly long teeth.
Yeah, that was. Yeah. That was actually by Alvin Schultz, the same guy who did Scary Stories to Sell in the Dark. Yeah.
Yeah, but who was the illustrator? Because that's kind of what I feel like is important there.
I don't know. I can't remember, but that was. I remember that. Yeah, it had like a bunch of those like traditional scary stories, like the red ribbon.
The red ribbon.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's yellow in that book. But yes. Yeah, so that kind of stuff, and then there was also John Belair's, who is on Appendix N for like a good and super weird like Merlin book, but his like bread and butter were like children's horror stories, essentially. Like Krause, House with the Clock on its Walls is the one that everyone kind of, or a lot of people have to read in school, but there's just a bunch of them, and it's legitimately disconcerting stuff. Like. Anyway, so a lot of this comes from my childhood, and part of it comes from the fact that I had like night terrors as a kid, which is I honestly don't know exactly what it is. But as an experience, it is like being awake and asleep at the same time. Like you are aware of what's going on in the room, like you get visual and sensory data from what's going on in your bedroom, but your body's still mostly sleeping, so you're getting a lot of subconscious input, and there's a strong sense that maybe there's someone in the room watching you, or someone in the room is very upset with you or angry, and that sense of sort of being a kid and powerless, and deeply threatened on a personal level. Like I stopped having these by the time I was 16. The last time I had them, like I ran out of the house and ran through the snow in my underwear.
Wow.
Because like I didn't like 3 blocks away from my house, I was like, oh, now this is weird. Like this is not like I started waking up, but like before then it was I thought my life was in danger. Like it is a deep, weird fear, and so that is kind of where a lot of this comes from, which is a desire to present players with like something that is both familiar but also like deeply destabilizing, and is not like within the vein of traditional horror.
I think you accomplished it, man. It is all like familiar, but not like familiar because you've seen it before. It's familiar, I think, in sensation more than anything else. Like
exactly. Thank you.
Yeah, because it makes me feel a way that I know I've felt before, maybe a way I haven't in a long time. And it's that, kind of terror dread thing that I just really, really enjoyed about, playing and running, in the woods. I mean, obviously you've written some mechanics that I think do a great job of communicating, that feeling as well. But that it wasn't my intent to talk about that for too long. But yeah, that's fantastic. That's exactly what. Thank you. That I feel like slightly validated in my opinions. And at the same time, Clint, you very explicitly wrote a game that is about telling campfire stories, right? Like that's the point of Don't Walk in Winter Wood, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I was influenced by many of the same factors. I'm 35 as well. Just turned. I think me and Pearce have very, very similar sort of stuff in terms of like scary stories to tell in the dark, all those things. I always kind of hoarded those, in the class library. and stuff like that, trying to keep those to my, so I could always go back through them. So yeah, very similar. And I don't know that campfire stories per se were a big part of my upbringing. Definitely, I went camping a lot, and every now and then, I guess there would be maybe a campfire ghost story. But I think with what it's more of an idealized sort of situation thing. I am drawing specifically from, in terms of the campfire format of it.
Don, I'm sure scary stuff wasn't allowed for you, right?
No, I mean, I think I mentioned in the last episode.
We are not in the last episode. We're here.
Which no one's heard.
Adam. Yeah, which no one's heard.
Yeah, except the guys who are watching it live. Yeah.
No, so I mentioned the those big unexplained books, and there was a ghost one. I loved that. I'm of course familiar with scary stories. I'm older than you guys, but not as old as Adam.
Which is a filthy lie because, but all the best people know, Don is older than I am.
But yeah, so I'm definitely like in that same, like I loved that stuff when I was a kid for sure.
Just when you were a kid, you stopped loving it?
Yeah, I don't like ghost stuff now. It's too scary, Adam.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
My mom tells me crazy stories about me hanging out with a ghost kid when I was a kid, and it freaks me out. So I don't want to talk about it.
Oh, come on. You just brought it up. You have to talk about it. Because I'm going to tell you my ghost stories.
Just like me sitting at the foot of the bed talking about my friend, I forgot his name, who was there, and she'd just be freaked out. And I was always hanging out with him. I remember, this is a weird memory, dudes. Don't think I'm weird. I'm totally weird. I remember feeding baby mice to turkeys, and this dude standing next to me telling me to do it.
Sure, no, yeah, sure.
Is that like fucking terrifying or what?
Nah.
Remind me never to sleep around you, Don.
I know, I'm in my basement. I'm like looking around my shoulders now. I'm like all creeped out. I have goosebumps. I don't talk about it.
As someone who grew up on the East Coast, that's basically what I imagine a Michigan.
Oh man. Anyway. So no, I recently have been working more ghosts into my stuff, like the adventure I wrote for Myth Horde. The Horde Echoes of the Blue Blade. I have tons of ghosts in there. And they're not like your typical D&D ghosts where you can hit them with a magical sword. You can't do anything. They're ghosts, but they'll curse you with the bloody handprint or just run through you and give you the shivers.
Ghosts that you can fight with a sword is dumb. I gotta say. I think in large part that kind of defeats the point of ghosts.
At one point, magical swords were hard to get.
Yeah. Different story there, man. Yeah, absolutely. So, Don, it's pretty cool that you have your own ghost stories. When I was growing up, there was a house that we lived in that nobody talked about this when we lived there. But after we moved, every member of we were all sitting around one day, and my sister was like really excited about this house that we lived in, and she said something in a way that was like what do you mean, Beth? She's like, I like this house. It doesn't have this thing here. We're like, what are you talking about? And then she went on to describe these like shadowy forms that she would see on the periphery of her vision. And every single one of my member of my family had seen these same things in this house, but no one talked about it because we didn't want anyone else to think we were crazy. But we had all seen them for years in the house we lived in before we moved away from Grand Rapids. And the dog would just be like barking at them and stuff, and it was one of those things that like really felt it was a real experience, whether we hallucinated or not. But yeah,
come on, I'm alone in my basement.
Yeah, we gotta scare you, Don.
I'm scared, guys.
It's not good if we have you leave you completely shitless here.
I'm like really skeptical about ghosts, but
I am too.
But I do ghost tours for work. That's what I do.
Really?
And
nice.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
I tell ghost stories all the time, and the thing that creeps me out is how many people like regardless of what, I'm pretty skeptical about it, but like lots of people, like maybe a majority of people think that they have had ghostly phenomena in their lives, and many of them kind of in important or significant somehow ways. So I don't know, man. It's creepy sometimes.
Well, let's talk about that. Like, what does that mean, right? I mean, the fact that it is something that we can kind of all relate to, even if it's just like on an intellectual level. Like, there's a reason that this shit resonates with us. Whether we're talking ghost stories, whether we're talking this like creepy ass nightmare phenomena, there's got to be a reason. Okay, so I will also admit that anytime I have one of these like show topics, it's about. To use the expression, it's only about half baked. Because I kind of figure that in the process of talking about a thing, the purpose for talking about it will out itself. So that's kind of where I see this going. Like, I don't know why this shit works. Like, why does sorry, I almost mixed up your two products. Why does In the Woods, like the secrets from In the Woods, why do they hit like these places where I think, oh yeah, that's really familiar, but it's totally not, because it's something Pearce made up, and it's not like anything that I've ever experienced, directly or indirectly. Like the lion. That lion is fucking scary, Pearce. That's creepy shit. But it's familiar, and not at all. Like, oh damn. Don, can you help me out here? I feel like I'm going somewhere, but I'm not sure I know where I'm getting there.
Shared remnant of the human experience. I don't know. It's just in our it's in our shit, man, from the caves.
But what's in our shit? What's in our shit? What's what is this thing, Don?
The dark used to be a very scary place, for early man.
It still is. Why is it? Why is it?
I don't think it's scary anymore.
You're in the basement alone, and you're scared of ghosts right now.
A little bit, but ghosts can't hurt you, right? No, it's just wired in. Like the unknown. The human brain just wants to always like sort for patterns and make stories up about why things are happening. It's just the way we're wired. And I mean, we spent I don't know how many we as a early man spent how many tens of thousands of years like huddled in caves. It's like Kingdom Death. That's a true story.
Kingdom Death is a true story.
Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah.
We were all voluptuous, sexy.
It's our history.
Monster hunters.
Not that part.
Story.
Maybe not that.
Damn it, that's the part I like. So I'm gonna admit to kind of leading you, Don,
right.
Because I don't want to dominate the conversation all the time. That's just a thing that happens. No. I don't want it to happen. It's just what occurs.
We talked about this in therapy.
Yeah, couples therapy.
Couples therapy.
So, I mean, I think that these are things that canon should be used to great effect in gaming, and I think that Pearce's example is a great one of ways to make to implement that kind of stuff that leaves that feeling that sort of folkloric story or folktale-ish feel. And by I guess I don't mean really like folktale or folkloric. I mean, because that's not really appropriate, but more like a product of almost like a childish imagination, and a very fucking scary one. So I guess what I was hoping to talk about in some ways were, where do we get that stuff? Where does it, where can we dig it up from? How can we use this terror to summon up new awful demons and secrets to plague ourselves and our gamers with?
Take lots of mushrooms. Are you asking me?
Give us the easy answer, Don. That's good. Yeah.
You have to open the doors in your mind and tap into the ancestral fear.
Okay, somebody who knows what they're saying, say something.
That is totally true, man. That is totally true.
I don't know what I'm saying, but I will say I think I'm very kind of Jungian, I guess, in my thinking. I think that basically it's just about types, these archetypal sort of motifs in human psychology, and then just really the trappings. There, it's just you find the archetype first, and you have the appropriate archetype to what you're trying to evoke, and then it's just a matter of window dressing it, essentially. Putting whatever kind of flavor there is on it. But there are certain characters that are out there in the world, and you can kind of go, okay, well, this is this thing's version of this archetype, and there can be multiples, in the same setting or whatever. But that's how I think of it.
Having had some of the previous conversations that we've had, Clint, I can understand how you arrive at that mindset. For me, that I guess I think I tend to work the opposite direction, rather than like having the core of that, like I want it to do X thing. It's more like I'll have the impression, and then I backfill the role or whatever, how it fits. Not necessarily Jungian archetypes, but the archetypes I'm choosing to use. So
I actually agree with that. I'm the same way. It's the same for me, but it's just I think if you can only really see to me in retrospect, but it's there. You can't help but it's always going to be there because it's coming from you. You're human, and you've got the same psychology as other humans on a primordial level. So it's always going to be there, but I don't think you can really see it at the time. I don't think like, so
it's not like you're going through a list and you're like, archetype 24C, we're going to use that, and we're going to put this dress on it, and then we're going to give it a stork's beak, and we're going to have it fly backwards through the window, right? That's that. Yeah, got it. Okay.
It usually just starts with being something cool, like, it'd be neat if there were, I don't know, guys riding pelicans or something like that, and then you kind of work. I usually start from just imagery, random stuff that I think is cool, and kind of figure something out from that.
Pearce, you were starting to say?
Yeah, I mean, I largely agree. I think if you want a resource for those kinds of archetypes, there is a book called, I think, the Encyclopedia of Urban Legends by Jan van Bunkamp, I think is the name. And it's pretty good. It's pretty exhaustive in that it's both academic and embraces a lot of the pulp references. I mean, I for example, the lion came about when I felt like there was a hole in the adventure thus far, and I needed something to fill it, and it was lacking a kind of brutality, I think, like a sort of like all of the secrets kind of represent a kind of a broad like motivating force for players in one direction or the other, and the lion is kind of like, if you want to look at like horror movie tropes, would be kind of like a slasher kind of, like a Terminator, or and then it's just a matter of, as Clint said, like kind of skinning it so that it suits the location and the context in which it's deployed. And so the line is very simple. There are other ones that are more personal, maybe, or particular to who you are as a GM, or in my case, as a GM and someone who's making the thing.
Right.
But the lion, I think, is a good example here because it's specifically like a broad trope that I deployed specifically to evoke a very specific kind of horror idea. So yeah.
See, it's interesting that you say, like, I used it very differently. I didn't use it in like a slasher sense, because that's not the way that it came across to me, which is great, because I think that means that, obviously there's room for interpretation there, which is always going to be fantastic. I had it more like...
You did it wrong.
Obviously I did it wrong. I thought of it more as like a lurking horror, like less like a slasher, and more like a serpent, like a constrictor snake slowly moving, and just like a looming terror that and that clearly not how you intended it. That's what the imagery made how it made me feel. You know.
When I say slasher, I'm specifically evoking the idea of like Halloween and Terminator, which are both, I think, slasher villains and are both largely what you are evoking there, I think, which is like a tightening of the noose, kind of fear, but it's also sort of the nature of the villain itself is kind of directly brutal. Like there's
it's not like it's a sophisticated, terror. It's a very, brutal primal terror. The direction, the way I envisioned it and took it was pretty much, it's like I said, and I guess I can see the Terminator-ness, right? Because here's a great urban legend, right? I mean, it's not exactly an urban legend, but it's at least modern iconography. The Terminator, right, gets blown up, keeps coming back, right? Same thing with Mike Myers and Freddy, not Freddy. Jason, right? No, Jason Voorhees. They, shit happens, but they keep coming back, right? And that's I guess that's kind of the direction that that happens in with the Lion. Not to give too much of this awesome thing away.
You can give it all away.
Oh, okay. Well, you gave it away, at least to me, which was funny because I'd already purchased it when you gave it to me, and I was like, "Oh, I already own this because it's awesome."
Yeah, I don't really look at sales or anything.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I have, whereas Clint is working on a supplement, I have no business plan or interest in a business plan whatsoever.
Right.
I am a failure as a producer.
You and me both, man. Yeah, I think even with Clint, though, it's because Clint wants to make awesome stuff and other people want to see it, right? So, yeah.
I'm not knocking Clint at all.
Yeah.
I'm just...
No, I didn't think you were, but it's not like Clint is this, Montgomery Burns character over here, plotting his vast fortune of, RPG supplements,
If you only knew.
Yeah.
If you only knew.
Yeah.
Actually, that said, when are we going to get, Deadwood versus? Driftwood
versus.
Oh, Driftwood versus?
Yeah.
Because I don't know, man. Pretty soon. We're working on it. It's mostly just taking a long time to illustrate, a lot longer than I thought. But it's coming along awesome. I'm working with Sean Poppy, I think, who
nice.
Does, his illustrations on that set are awesome.
And he's really great. And so he's lovely. I think it's going to kill him. We were both really naive about how, because I was like, hey, do you want to do a whole book where it's just you and it's going to be pretty, like a whole setting book? And we were both like, yeah, that sounds awesome. And I think completely naive about what that really meant. I've actually done stuff like that before, but not in this sort of way. So I don't know, it's crazy, but he's doing great. And so it's going to take a little bit longer still. But
what are you looking at page count wise?
It's going to be a couple hundred pages somewhere in there. Nice. Maybe a little more.
Nice. So, yeah. Driftwood versus got its start really in the pages of Vacant Ritual Assembly, right? Yeah,
that's right. I just did a town for the game that I was running, and I was in the mood to do a sort of a kitschy sort of Moby Dick-ish seaside town with some blue Magic the Gathering from Fallen Empire's crab guys in there, Homerids. I wanted to do something like that, and that ended up, I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then I got the idea of a setting where whales are like dragons. Basically, the whole Planescape or Dark Sun, reskinning of D&D tropes, but as other interesting things.
Mm-hmm.
Whales are dragons, and sand, there's water, and all that kind of stuff. And I'm a big Dark Sun fan, and
nice.
So that
I knew there
kind
was
of started melding together, and that's pretty much where it came from. What was that?
I knew there was a reason I liked you. I'm a big Dark Sun fan myself.
Weirdly, I haven't played a lot of Dark Sun. And I've just a couple games, and I've played games maybe, but I don't have much experience, but I love the setting.
I once I realized that Dark Sun was really it's Barsoom crossed with Arrakis.
Yeah.
Then I was like, oh, I get it now, and now I You know, I don't know. It makes sense to me. So we're going off on tangents, guys. We're doing it again.
Let's rein it in, guys. Let's rein it in.
Well, acceptable tangent.
Yeah. So Don, be our
games.
topic police, because I'm drunk, you asshole.
Right.
What were we talking?
No, I
don't know.
I like Dark Sun too, guys. It's awesome.
We all like Dark Sun.
Okay.
Yeah, we all love Dark
Motion
Sun.
carries. Dark Sun is awesome.
All right. Next topic. So you presented this, and it had multiple layers.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, how have I used like urban legends? I mean, are cryptids an urgent lemon?
An urgent lemon.
Both. Yeah.
Wow. What are you drinking? They're the most urgent lemons I've ever.
Do we want to bring someone else in here to like run this? Or
I think we got it.
Where's Harley? We need fucking Harley. He makes the shit run.
It's been worse in here. No, like cryptozoology, crypto.
Cryptids,
I can't even talk.
yes. Cryptids.
Cryptids. Yeah, that's what I started saying.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, I mean
that's popular mythology, right? I mean,
right. Yeah.
Why not? Why? What do you got? Let's tell us about how you use Bigfoot in the game.
Oh, I didn't use Bigfoot. I used flying rods.
Oh, cool.
I don't know him. I don't know.
You don't know flying rods?
I don't know flying rods.
They're also called skyfish. It's really it's kind of ridiculous. I saw this documentary on it a couple of years ago. It's just like a camera artifact when like a moth flies, but it looks on film like this flying rod. So I put some in this adventure. Once again, that Myth Horde published.
Oh.
Yeah.
Back in the 90s, I ran a mage campaign that all of the details of the campaign came from the Weekly World News.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Nice.
That was, I mean, back when we had the Weekly World News, I mean, you know, I had the original, Satan's skull found in New Mexico, issue, and then Satan's graveyard found like next door to the skull, and like all the Bat Boy issues and all that shit. I was like pretty heavy into the Weekly World News because I thought that would probably be the best job in the world, was writing for those guys. So I very much, I wanted to bring my love of that and Burroughs novels to players, so I like mix those up with like Interzone. Or the Weekly World News up with like bits of like the Burroughs' Interzone-ish setting, and that was a lot of fun because we got to play with a lot of things like Bigfoot, and since you brought him up but didn't talk about him at all, Don.
I wasn't talking about Bigfoot.
You were told, don't lie. We know.
No, I never would want to talk about Bigfoot. I would go Skunk Ape.
Oh, okay. I'm down with Skunk Ape. Yeah. Skunk Ape's pretty cool,
Yeah. This is a tangent, but it's about cryptids, so it's related. We used to get this thing from my kid, these like animal cards, and they had a whole section on cryptids. And I just was like, oh man, you don't need to read these. I'll just take these in the bedroom and read them. Everything.
I'll take these in the bathroom and read them along with this box of Kleenex. We'll be fine. Yes.
I meant bedroom.
That's a sexy mermaid,
I was reading before I went to sleep. I read when I'm in bed. That's the only time I read.
With the lights dimmed, the candles going.
Why are you making this such a weird show, Adam?
I can't help it. It's what I do. Oh, shit.
You're worse than me tonight.
Yeah.
No, but the Mongolian deathworm and banshees, and well, it's not really even a cryptid, but it was looped. It was like all these classic monsters and then cryptids. It was an amazing little set of 3x5 cards that weren't really 3x5. I'm burning. I'm sinking. Anyway, have you guys used any stuff like that?
I love stuff like that.
Bigfoot.
Yeah.
For years, I listened regularly to Coast to Coast AM.
Yeah, I was about to mention that. Yep.
Yeah.
I've kind of fallen off now because George Norwich in the ground has gotten really right wingy and stuff. But
shocking.
At least, yeah. Last
Talk radio went right wing? No way.
Yeah, but I mean, there's no shortage of inspiration to be had for that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I'm always it's tricky to use it in games though, because my instinct is always to be subtle about horror and stuff like that, and subtle, but you want it to be like, you want things to be mysterious in the way that Bigfoot or whatever cryptid or whatever is mysterious, but sometimes that subtlety, it's hard to be able, times with things and just be like, I don't know, that you have to have the reveal, I guess is what I'm saying.
Right.
I've ran too many games where like I've tried to be subtle and I was so subtle that nobody picked up on anything interesting happening. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's possible to do that as well. You have to kind of be subtle. There's a crescendo, but it has to end during the session. The end of the crescendo has to be something that pays off.
You can't keep the suspense going over a session, because then it gets perspective gets lost.
Unless
right?
Unless it's some very specific scenario. Yeah.
Right, like something that they're hunting. I mean, it seems like players always want to get to the bottom of things. If you give them something mysterious, they'll pick it up, they'll go with it usually. Yeah. But you can't they want the payoff. They just have to.
You got to get the money shot. The monster money shot's got to happen. Yeah.
I've also tried things like, just having a location-based adventure where there's like really no monsters, or only one monster, or only one kind of threat, and then just having the place itself be kind of creepy and have a certain story to it if you pay. And again, if you go too subtle it's a cool idea, like explore and things like that. But if you're too subtle with it, then I think a great example of that is like what's it called? Death Frost Doom for Lamentations. I think that's like one of the greater examples of like a really good. It is subtle for gaming, subtle, in the beginning of it. And then it gets crazy. There is the payoff there. But I think, I don't know, my instinct sometimes is to operate on a level of subtle that is too. Sometimes I have to kind of remind myself to bump things up a little bit and actually have, some kind of payoff in there.
Yeah.
I think to some degree it's about deferring or denying like certainty about things. Mm-hmm. So it's, you have to pay things off. Like, they have to be able to actually, if you hint at a monster or a Bigfoot or whatever in the woods, they have to encounter that at some point, or be able to encounter that at some point. But you also don't have to ever tell them what it is, or give them a clear definition. Like, that's why using, say, straight Bigfoot often devolves into like camp.
Or Scooby-Doo.
So
Yeah.
I have a good Scooby-Doo story. Yeah. But like you have to. It's not about, I think, not paying things off. You always have to do that. Otherwise, it's never going to work. Like that's a tenet, I think, of just general running games. And I think when people go to horror games, sometimes that's a mistake they make, because you look at it like an excellent horror movie, like, I don't know, Wreck, or even like Blair Witch, where a fundamental element of horror is a lack of total closure and a lack of like, total understanding. What you do instead is like you say, you can let them kill the thing, but you never tell them what the thing is.
Yeah.
Like, you can describe the thing to them. You can let them poke at the thing. You can let them, like, dissect the thing if they want to go that far. But you never tell them, like, what it is. You never tell them. And it's never clearly a jackalope. It's never clearly, the Jersey Devil in any of its incarnations. It's something like that. It's something that feels like that. And so that they can maybe walk away with some kind of sense of closure, in that they will feel like, oh, well, this is kind of like this thing, I think, so I kind of get it. And I don't feel dissatisfied with this ending, but at the same time, it's still, it feels like it's not ended entirely. Like the end of, what was that Hitchcock movie, Marnie, where like he goes to her grave and the hand pops up at the end. And you're never clear on whether or not that's nightmare or what. So yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're getting really close to you're like obviously I completely agree with all the stuff you're saying. I think it's fantastic. You're also obviously because I think that was really well articulated. I just agree with people who say shit well. I
have no idea what I just said.
Yeah, me neither. It's okay. You said it well, so I'm going to agree with you. No, but you're skirting really close to an issue that we see popping up a lot in games, and you, I mean, you kind of explicitly brought it up, and you kind of tangentially did, and that is the one of like, naming things, and you're specifically here. You're saying don't, when you name things, you take away a lot of the mystery. So you don't say it's a jackalope, you describe jackalopeness, right? I've seen plenty of other people espouse the opposite view of, and I think sometimes rightfully so, it's not a thing I can do, where they say just, instead of, describing what plastic is to your Gamma World players, just fucking tell them it's plastic, And for me, I mean, just in general, I have a hard time getting to the point where I think that the utility of giving a thing a name overrides the impact of describing the experience of beholding the thing. I guess part of it for me is that I base a lot of what I want my players to come away with, on my experiences of that thing or something similar, right? So, Pearce, I think in a lot of ways this is why I had such a great time running Monster Parts, and why I think the players who were playing it had a good time with it too, is because I didn't give things a name, right? Things don't have. Like the lion, I never called it the fucking lion, right? Like we had described what it was because I wanted them to, have the feeling of how I felt when I, as a reader, beheld it. The person who is putting it into my brain to make it make sense. What was the experience I was having? And I know folks who probably listen to the show routinely are maybe sick of me talking about this kind of like. Epistemological take on gaming, but for me, I mean, that's why I can't name it. I can't say it's a jackalope, is because that it's not the jackalope. That's not what's important. It's the experience of jackalope-ness. Right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Adam, if they are tired of it, they haven't emailed me to tell me so.
So they could really email Don and complain about my epistemological ramblings. Yeah, that's good.
I mean, I, of course, agree with this. What I've been doing lately with DCC, if you guys are familiar, I'm sure maybe.
I'm sure maybe. There's a chance that you might be familiar with this game that exists.
Dungeon Crawl Classics. Anyway, the goblins, they have these charts for you to roll on for special things. So I roll them up. I'm like, it's hardly even a goblin anymore. And I just make up a name. And then they get a rumor. I'm like, oh, yeah, the Tarda are rising and the Percuna are, over in this area. I give them names that those names don't mean shit. They can call it something. It's not telling them what it is. That's, yeah.
I think there's wisdom in both of those methods. Both the abstract naming method that you just described, and also the no naming method, effective in various ways.
Well, I think
there's also the thing about there's like a meta level, right, of naming things where it's like it's important on some level that a thing achieve a name that because the writer of whatever the material
needs to
put that in the DM. So that needs to be clear. But then when it's translated to players, I think you're right that implying it is naming it, unless it's, as you say, kind of an abstract name because gravity to it, because it's like, oh, this is the thing that exists in the world that I am not familiar with, that intrigues me to find out about.
Right. I think that what Don's doing by giving it a name that's not a name that they've heard before is actually providing an experience, and he's providing the experience of, here's a fucking name you've never heard before. It means nothing to you other than its context, right? So I think that in and of itself is really transmitting a meaning. At the same, actually, Don, I think that's probably one of the best ways to give something a name, is to have that name mean nothing outside of the context until they ascribe some meaning to it by coming into contact with whatever it is. So I think, Don, you hit upon the best way of naming shit, and I love it.
Sweet.
So good job, Don.
My job here is done.
Okay. Well, if Don's done, then I got a couple more questions for you guys. And this time around, I thought long and hard about how to do like a third rail topic with this group and this topic, and I'm not going to say I didn't do one. I didn't come up with one because I came up with a different idea altogether. Here's what I want from each one of you guys. All right. First, what is that, spot of folklore or urban legend or, campfire story or whatever you got that really like got you, like that, what seized you the most when you were, in a formative sense, like maybe not like when you were a child, but like what really grasped your attention more than anything else. And because it's my shitty topic, I'll start. My dad he was a really good storyteller. I learned a lot about telling stories from my father, and he was really good at scary stories, or at least that's what I thought when I was a kid, because I was a kid, and a lot of times I was hearing these stories for the first time. And he was really good at that way of telling a story where you tell it as if it's happened to you. You know what I mean? And have you ever heard that? It's an old, I guess kind of campfire horror story about, I was on my way to work and I hit a deer, and I went to go, or I hit a man, and I, went to go see if he was okay, and he ran off into the, the forest, and blah, 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 and I chased him down, and then it was really like a man-deer hybrid thing without a face. Maybe that's really hyper specific, but that kind of setup. But that's the image that my dad put in my head, was this, like elk centaur, or like satyrid, with like no face and antlers, like a giant fucking rack of antlers. So that's the one that's the story. That's like the thing that for me has always been like this topic.
Everyone's had that experience. Yeah, for sure.
Right, running into an elk satyr, right? that's a thing that happens, right?
No.
Well, but when my dad told that story, he was like, he talked about a specific stretch of road that I knew, and even though the fact I was a kid,
fathers are very good at that, because they've got that like adult boy thing going on where they're like totally comfortable with you.
Yeah, my dad's still a big kid, so it's like it was like that just scared the shit out of me.
Ways that may be slightly irresponsible,
Yeah, because it was always during like we were always camping when he told this shit, but it was always a good time. So, hey, Pearce, you opened yourself up by opening your mouth. What about you? What thing of this nature like always gripped you like during the formative points of your life?
So I don't have one. I would say that instead, like, other than the experience of having night terrors,
right? Because that's pretty formative. Yeah,
but sort of not. Like, it's something that happens to you in a way that, because it's pathological, it isn't persistent.
Okay.
I think that now one of the things that I like avidly pursue a lot is not necessarily creepypasta, but that sort of like amateur internet horror, which is like clearly and obviously written by someone who has no sense of what a good story is, but it still works. Like, it goes too long in parts, or it's whatever, and then sometimes people cut it down. And like, there's a great example. So there's some podcasts that do this, like the Lore podcast covers more like historical urban legend horror stuff, and that, when you listen to it, is never particularly frightening, but it is still interesting, and you sort of get a sort of sense of ghost stories over longer periods of history. And then also there is No Sleep, which grows out, I think, of creepypasta specifically, so that there's a lot of, and even now, like, I don't know, it's been around for like 6 or 7 years. Even now, it's still really rough, like as far as like literary pretension goes. Like you can listen to a Pseudopod, for example, which is much more like, and in fact often is like horror short fiction, which is published somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like the stuff in No Sleep, I don't know where you would get that published other than like, like Reddit or like somewhere on the internet where like you're not getting paid. But that level where it's an understanding, like 60% of the time is terrible, but like there's an understanding there of something that is like fundamentally disconcerting and upsetting, that is not like so much of modern horror, like as much as like The Girl Next Door or I don't know what's a more recent one, Mr. Suicide, or like Joe Hill's Heart-Shaped Box are really good horror stories. They are also deeply modern and polished, and the stuff you get on Creepypasta or No Sleep is unpolished and awkward and bad. And even when there are a few instances, like No Sleep did a 2-hour thing of
sounds like it's kind of like the punk rock of horror, right? Because it's like it's not it's like early demo stuff, like it's raw and therefore genuine. Is that?
It's more like the adults were doing punk rock, and then the kids were trying to figure out how punk rock worked.
Yeah, got it. Middle school punk rock. I understand.
There's a lot of stuff there where you're like, I know exactly where this is going, like a long, and it's like a 30-minute story or something, and it's a long time before you get there, but there's something in there which is essential and which gets missed in a lot of professional horror.
Awesome.
Specifically because it's written by someone who doesn't know what they're doing.
That's fantastic. Awesome. I'm going to skip down and I'm going to go to Clint. Clint, what about you, man?
Formative folktale stuff. I think I had two really. One was I grew up in Noster, Missouri, which is a very small town in Missouri, rural Missouri, which is unnotable except for it's right next to Whiteman Air Force Base, where the B-2 bomber is stationed. So, like, it's a weirdly cosmopolitan place for a tiny little rural town. But anyway, there's a ghost legend there about an old who used to live up on Knob Hill, which is one of the hills right outside town. And he would only come into town every now and then. This is like back in the 1800s, because Knob was an old railroad town. So he was kind of shunned up there on this hill. And then one night there's a thunderstorm, and he makes his way down the hill, and he dies of fright as there's a crack of lightning nearby. And the ghost story is that on a stormy night, you could look up on Knob Hill and still see his lantern bobbing up and down the hill. So I heard that, in school when I was in elementary school or whatever, and lived there, having this sort of like, specific local spot to look for ghosts at, and just spent every time I ever drove by there, a kid, looking up there for this bobbing light. Yeah. Now, later on in college, I did some research and I found out that that story was actually invented by the guy who ran the newspaper in the town. He invented that story like one Halloween just to have a creepy, local ghost feature, and it caught on, I guess, and people have now passed it down. But also I don't know, there's a lot of stuff around little rural towns like that. Like the middle school that I attended was supposedly haunted by the ghost of a girl who had been killed during a school play. Some weird stuff with blood splatters on the gym floor and all this. And it was genuinely creepy. But so there was that. The town I came from had a bunch of those. And then distinctly my mom telling me about my grandparents. My mom also grew up in rural Missouri, and it's a lot of farmland and stuff out there. Very creepy if you drive through in the winter or in autumn. And she told me about when she was a little girl. One time, my grandfather carried a shotgun in the car because there had been this story going around that there were witches out in the doing rituals and stuff fields at night. And this would have been, I don't know what time frame we're looking at here, but a long time ago. And that always stuck with me as just this idea that something as blatantly sort of supernatural as that could affect someone that I knew. Mm-hmm. The extent that they wanted to carry a gun with them seemed crazy to me and exciting, which I'm sure there was nothing to that at the end of the day. It was probably some rumor started by some random person, but when you hear that sort of stuff as a kid, it's very impactful. So I think that's where my formative things in terms of interest in folktales and stuff like that.
You put me in mind of two specific things there, Clint. And the first is, I guess those clowns hanging out in the forest decided that winter was too cold, right? I mean, we haven't heard anything about them in a while. Right. So that's good. I'm glad the Juggalos had to go in for the winter. That's good. Also, Don and I both live in Michigan. Here in I guess it's kind of like middle northern Michigan, the Manistee County area. When I was growing up, there was a myth that got invented in 1987, which was the myth of the Dog Man. And this, a radio DJ made up this myth, and it wasn't a werewolf, it's the Dog Man. And every year that ends in 7, the Dog Man, comes forth and terrorizes Wexford County along the Manistee River in Michigan. And what was funny is adults that I knew it was a hoax, and they knew that it was all made up. There was a song on the radio about the legend of the Dog Man, which is how this whole thing spread, right? But I'm not kidding you, towards the end of the summer of 1987, there were news reports about people who believed their house had been broken into by the Dog Man, and they'll show you my screen door got ripped, see, and all this crazy shit. The Dog Man came in here and he wrecked all my shit, and they'd show you all this shit the Dog Man did, and it was this weird hysteria thing that flared up for about a year based on a hoax. I don't know if anybody up there, I think now it's so widespread that it was a hoax that people don't, use it anymore. But for a little while, that Dog Man hoax was happening. It was really cool. Don, do you know what I'm talking about? Do you know the Dog Man of Wexford County?
No, I grew up in the Thumb, so it was quite far. Oh
yeah, they don't have radio there. I didn't hear it outside of going camping in Wexford County back then. So, okay. I'm giving you shit, Don. I'll find the video of the Dog Man of Wexford County song, and I'll put it in the show notes when I do those, and it'll be exciting. So that's what I have to say. Hey Don, what about you? You got anything like this that you want to share?
I do have some. I don't know where it was from. Some little ghost story book. It might have even been from the Scary Stories book, whatever. There was a story about, I don't know the setup, but there was this skunk that would sniff at your basement windows, and he had the face of a human. Like it's supposed to be some prospector. Somehow his ghost got in the skunk. So
where was this? This was
It was in some ghost story book, and I read that when I was, I don't know, 4th grade, maybe 3rd. I was always terrified to go in the basement and change the laundry over because we had a huge dark basement, had all kinds of clutter in it. But we had these foggy windows that I could have just imagined this little skunk with a human face snuffing along, trying to get in, and it terrified me. Yeah, much like Donald Sutherland's Pod People movie. Do you know when the dog had the human face? Man, I don't like animals with human faces.
So your nightmare is a tiny thing you could kick. And, like, send across.
But he could make him stink an awful lot
So
before.
shocked. I mean, I was younger, so it was probably harder to kick it. Now it's not a nightmare.
That's a good point.
That is very.
When I first moved to Washtenaw County a number of years ago, I used to hang out with these guys, and their next door neighbor had one of those cats that had lost like all of the hair on its face. It wasn't a hairless cat because it had hair everywhere else. It just didn't have hair on its face.
Yeah, one of those cats.
It's apparently it's a thing that happens to cats. Some cats, not all cats, clearly.
It's a reverse beard.
It is like a reverse beard, but it looked like a man-faced cat. Specifically, it looked like a Telly Savalas-faced cat. So it was like the Kojak cat lived next door to these people, and it was like you did not want to be like out having a smoke when that cat came outside because you were going to be scared shitless. Because animals having a real person face is
it's
terrifying,
right?
Yeah. I'm with you, Don. Yeah. Oh. Okay, so that was question 1, and that was good. I liked it. All right, so that was question 1. I got another question, which is, what thing of this nature would you want to put in a game? Don, you went first. You went last, so you're going first this time.
I'm not going to put that in a game.
I'm not saying that one. Like, what like this would you put in a game?
Right.
And how would you do it to be interesting?
That's a good question. You know what? I would maybe put this in a game. What if your players roll into a village and everyone is a cat with a human face? Yeah, that's weird, right?
So they're cursed or something? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, they're cursed, and you could.
Do the cat people know that anything's wrong?
Yeah. What if they don't? What if they think everything's normal? They've always been this way, and then your party is just like, whoa. And what if there's a cave? What if there's a cave with a bunch of human bodies with cat faces?
Okay.
Yeah, that's creepy.
It sounds like an episode of Adventure Time is what it sounds like to me.
Actually, there's a Michael DeForge comic who is one of the people who's one of the artists who does Adventure Time, where there is, I think, a town that suffers from the Cathy disease, where everyone has the same face, which is Cathy's face. But like all the rats, all the like wildlife, everyone. Yeah,
that's funny.
So that's accurate.
I guessed well. All right. So Pearce, what about you? What would what thing like obviously you've already done stuff like this in the past, but I mean it came from your own brain. What urban legend, myth, popular folklore, whatever, would you want to would you be tempted to put into a game?
So there's like two components. One is the actual creature, and then one is like the ramp up to the thing.
Yeah, sure.
Like to go back to that Alvin Schwartz book, like the idea that there's a kid who's late going home and keeps encountering people who, as I recall, also are all like kind of in trench coats, which I think there is maybe like a veiled thread of like maybe sexual violence there, and all have increasingly longer teeth.
Yeah.
Like that's a great ramp up to that kind of stuff. And that story just ends. Like the kid like sees someone with really long teeth and just goes home, and it's the end of the story. And like that to me is a good ramp up to like part of horror is like I don't know, Silent Hill is a video game or just other. There's an idea of a liminal space where you go from an accepted, normal, and safe reality to something dangerous and uncertain, and that sort of like increasingly unheimlich, like uncanny kind of as like beckoning into like a zone of horror, I think works really well, and I would use that all over the place. And then like you just post in chat like 1,000 letters.
Yeah, I meant to do this.
I think that's an image from the teeth story,
yeah,
right?
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, the book is called In a Dark, Dark Room.
It's in a dark, dark room. Yeah.
Yeah, by Dirk Zimmer. The pictures are Dirk Zimmer. So
exactly. Yeah, and the color on that is so good. Like the line work and the color is like so like late 70s and so good. Anyway, so there's that, and there's also specific creatures, and I wouldn't include most specific creatures because most of them aren't like if you look at the Jersey Devil or things like that, they are things which are defined in a specific way and aren't interesting because what's uncertain about them. What's interesting about them is how they impact a real community, and I think in a game that's not very interesting.
Right.
But with respect to things which are less certain and which are less well defined, I don't know. Like you look for things which are in those stories enigmatic or interesting. You look at like in scary stories to tell in the dark. There's the story about and this is not just in there, where like a woman wakes up in the middle of the night. He was whistling, tells her roommate to stop whistling in the middle of the night, wakes up and finds her roommate decapitated. And so clearly it was the murderer whistling in the middle of the night. You hear scary stories about, or the one from that where the woman has a spider lay eggs in her face and the eggs burst out of her face. Like those moments of like the monstrosity, like monstrousness, like impinging on normality, I think are like super effective as monsters in horror stories versus like monsters in D&D, which there you do want names and stuff. Like there you want to be able to say orc, and there you want to be able to say stuff because like that's shorthand so everyone gets it, so you don't have to spend forever describing them, because unless it's like a real threat, you don't want to spend forever describing what it is.
Sure.
So like here in horror, where combat is less frequent and more dire, and often an instance in which you are negotiating terms of flight rather than like success.
You brought up something, and I the whole like, do we kill it, or how do we interact with this scary thing? What's our implied course of action? I do want to bring up something about monster parts real fast, and that is like the whole like action mechanic. I gotta say, I think to me more than anything else that drives home the the whole idea of games are about what they have rules for. The fact that there are really like 2 rules in the game, and that really drives home what the game is about. The game is about hide and seek, because you, as you get better at learning things, you get, as you get better at learning things, as you learn more things, you get better at hiding from them, and you get worse at finding things out. Which man, I'm doing a really bad job of explaining this, or explaining how it fits in.
I mean, I think that's also to some degree how our hex scroll works, like, which is why I did a hex scroll. Like, it's in part about like gaining more knowledge about the limited locations in which you are playing, so that like as your knowledge about things grows, the viable options are the obvious and best case scenario shrinks to 1 or 2 possible things.
Right, which is often
what you're saying?
Fucking run and hide.
Which I like. Yeah, in horror it's run and hide. In D&D it's maybe talk them through it until you can get someone with a good lockpick skill to get around them to like loot their treasure while you're talking.
Yeah, this is something that Noah Stevens likes to talk about. A lot of us, folks, I'm sorry, Noah's really big on and he might still be watching, he might have passed out or something, I don't know. We haven't seen him in the Twitch chat for a while, but he likes to talk about viable like conflict resolution methods that don't devolve into violence in gaming. I like how in Monster Parts it kind of feels like if you engage in violence, it's over, like that's not a viable option for your characters. I enjoy that. Obviously that's not going to work in every style of game, but it really, I think, drives home the horror nature of the game, because if you opt into this, you're going to have a bad outcome. And unfortunately, Pearce seems to have left for this rest of this conversation. That's okay. He'll be back. Clint, what about you? What thing of this nature are you tempted to work into your games?
I think the 2 things that I'm really cool, I think, are basically ghosts and UFOs.
Ooh.
Already, but I don't feel like I've gotten it quite where I feel like ghosts in RPGs are tricky because they fall in a ghost as foe that you can fight. You know, the ghost as essentially NPC. There's the ghost as like kind of story. So I don't think that there's necessarily one of those that's better or I'm just always trying to find stuff. I actually just wrote a thing that I was pretty has to do with an NPC turning out to be a ghost. I don't want to give it away, and I thought it had the effect of kind of a ghost story thing of having a sudden reveal about the ghostly. I like that idea. Mm-hmm. So that's a thing that is compelling to me, and also UFOs. I've always been interested in a non-cheesy way. Really kind of creepy and trippy way. I just watched this incredible documentary on Netflix. What was this called? I just wrote it down so I'd remember. The Curse of the Man Who Sees UFOs. It's very bizarre, and it's about this eccentric guy who, he has all these videos, like dozens of videos. He just seems to be where UFOs are. I don't know what the fascinating thing, and it got me thinking about UFOs lately, and I think there's a lot of creepiness that could be had there, especially AM, like kind of Project Blue Book conspiracy theory end of that field. There's a lot of interesting stuff there that can be tapped for gaming. Connection between UFOs and psychic phenomena, for example, is something that's interesting to me. But again, it's well-trod territory, and it's like you don't want to do, doing it in a not cheesy way, I think is tricky.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I aspire to it at some point.
While we're on the topic of not cheesy ways to involve UFOs and psychic phenomena, we're just a little ways out from the third season of Twin Peaks, right? So that's kind
exactly
of hitting those points. I think David Lynch did such a great job with actually addressing those topics. I think that's kind of proof that it can be done in an interesting and really fun way that can be really engaging. Well, I think we're there, guys. I think we've had a fantastic conversation. I want to thank our fantastic guests for being here tonight. I've had a great time talking to you guys. Pearce, it's great to finally meet you, man.
Yeah, you too. All of you.
Yeah. And you're definitely welcome back anytime. Clint, you're not. No, I'm kidding. You are, of course, welcome back anytime. It was great having you back. I'm really glad you agreed to sit through this one more time. Hopefully we can get you to do it yet again.
Happy to do it.
My lovely co-host Don, I really appreciate how much shit we give each other. It's a beautiful thing. You're really good at taking it, man. I appreciate that you've been better at dishing it out this season. It's good.
I just hit my limit sometimes and I crack.
That's great. I love when you crack. That's my whole point in pushing you, man. Thanks, buddy. So, hey, I do have an announcement, and this might not be news by the time that this episode actually is officially broadcast, and that is we got tapped again to run the Swords and Wizardry Day, Appreciation Day podcast, so we're going to be doing that again. I don't know who our guests are going to be. I'm pretty sure Ryan Thompson will be one of them. I'm willing to bet that we're going to get one of the Frog Gods. I had a great time with Matt Finch last year, and dude... Bill Webb is always freaking weird to hang out with. I love talking to that guy. Mm-hmm. Last time I hung out with Bill Webb for any stretch of time, a good friend of ours ended up in the hospital. But we don't need to talk about that.
That's not related to Bill Webb at all.
Yeah. But that's the last time I hung out with Bill Webb. Yeah. Someone ended up in the hospital. I didn't say that was a result of hanging out with Bill Webb. I'm just saying.
To be totally clear, it was the ER, not the hospital. But yeah.
Where is the ER if it's not at the hospital?
I mean, the hospital might imply to our listeners that someone had a lengthy stay.
How is the ER any better than saying the hospital?
It sounds worse.
It's kind of worse.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
Like I said, when someone says, "Oh, he went to the ER," I'm thinking, "Oh shit, serious trauma."
Right.
Which it kind of was. I mean, he was discharged the next day or whenever, maybe a few hours later. I don't know. But that's a crazy story. We'll tell you guys off air sometime. So, you gorgeous listeners at home, have a great night. We'll see you next time. We don't have a catchphrase on our way out. So, have a great evening. Enjoy yourselves.
Later. Yeah. Thanks, everybody.
Okay. I have hit stop recording.